Ladies and gentlemen, it's official. I'm bored. I'm bored! So what do you do when you're bored of Destiny? Well, silly, you just play more Destiny, but in a different way. Shout out to Riley Reloaded here on YouTube. Your videos absolutely kick ass, and your channel inspired today's upload. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you 𝗵𝗵𝗱, an absolute beautiful dungeon here in Destiny 2, which is free for all players and houses some intense boss encounters, awe-inspiring sightlines, and of course, some kick-ass loot and cosmetics. Solo flawless prophecy guides are a fairly common one here in the YouTube landscape. A lot of people really have the desire to earn this absolute gem of an emblem. And the other night I was thinking and decided to myself, could a 100% new light account solo flawless prophecy? Just make a character, do your first quest, and immediately after given the option, just hop into the dungeon and come out victorious. Well, ladies and gentlemen, today... What? Riley did what now? Solo flawless prophecy with only white gear? Huh? Our journey begins with me creating a brand new Steam account and logging into Destiny 2 for the first time. Today we'll be following a guardian by the name of 𝗔𝗗𝗩𝗔𝗡𝗔, and he... Wait a minute. Guardian 7674? Okay, had to go to Bungie.net to change it. Today we'll be following a guardian by the name of 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗔𝗡𝗔. After finally loading in, we get the option to pick between one of the three classes. Although I'm a Titan main, I had a hunch that I have my best chance of clearing this dungeon on Warlock, since their Void subclass is so strong, and that's what I did my first ever solo flawless with anyways. After spending some time with Destiny's awful character creator, I got as close as I could to making my Warlock look like 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗔, and then I launched the game and immediately earned an achievement for reaching level 20, which I'm sure doesn't confuse new players at all. I skipped the starter cutscene since it's like 7 years old at this point, get my keybind set, and then run off into the Cosmodrome. Venturing through the wall, I pick up some guns I'll never use, run past some Fallen, make it to the other side where I 1v1 a walker before meeting with 𝗁𝗁. He basically tells me I look like shit and that I need to run some missions for him. I scan this thingy while doing a quirky little dance because Destiny enemies are a joke, then scan another thingy, and another, and another, and another, before going inside a building to pick up ghost fragments. I accidentally went to orbit here and found out that even without a ship, your Guardian actually still has one, and surprisingly enough, it isn't even the starter Arcadia jump ship. It's just this weird V-wing rust bucket looking thing. Anyways, back to the Cosmodrome. So 𝗁𝗁 has me doing some lost sectors and shit before he finally deems me worthy of one of the best legendary weapons in the game. Seriously, if you don't think Nightwatch is at least A tier, then you're out of your mind. Funny enough, after getting Nightwatch, I then killed a randomly spawned high-value target, and then I looted his chest to find the 𝗕𝗵𝗶𝗀 linear fusion rifle, which will definitely come in handy later as we're in a heavy linear meta right now. After this, I start the next mission where I'm supposed to go to the array and scan something, but my quest marker bugs out, and despite letting go scan the screen at the end, the mission just completely soft-locked itself. I was really annoyed about this, so I decided to do the only other quest I had in my inventory called Learning Light. I've never seen this quest before, and it looks like something to introduce players to Light 3.0, which is actually pretty cool. I get my first aspect, go through this Mario looking ass level, make it to a Death Stranding looking ass level, go around the Cosmodrome meditating 50 times, and then I'm finally granted my first fragment, and I complete the quest. Talking with 𝗁𝗁, I'm now forced to run the quest that previously soft-locked me, and after going through it without pressing my sprint key a single time just to be safe and not go over the speed limit, I finally made it to the end where I defend the array against the Hive, and therein get to listen to the coolest vanilla Destiny soundtrack ever conceived. After this, I go back to camp only to learn that 𝗁𝗁 fucked off on a suicide mission like an idiot and told me not to go after him. Ironically enough, giving me a sparrow as he tells me this, making my pursuit of finding him 100 times easier. Using my newly found sparrow, I make my way to the Forgotten Shore to begin the quest. This involves me going on a scavenger hunt and opening up chests to try and find 𝗁𝗁's coordinates. After this, I go to the moth yards and pick up some firefly-looking thingies, and now I know where 𝗁𝗁 is located. Going into the lunar complex, I walk through this door and instantly die because Destiny 2 is one of the video games of all time. Surely it can't get worse than this though. I walk through the door to find 𝗍𝗁 waiting on me with an ambush, only for my game to crash right after the fight begins. I'm being 100% honest here, I have never had my game crash, not once, since the release of Witch Queen, so this genuinely had me butt-facing my computer screen in disbelief. Anyways, I now need to redo the quest all from scratch, which is something I'm used to at this point. Open chest, collect fireflies, and then I'm back at 𝗍𝗏 and kicking your ass. I really would love to know how the hell Shah Han let 𝗍𝗏 beat the shit out of him. Dude literally has boots from the Last Wish raid and is letting a strike boss absolutely body him like this. I'm sure whatever LFG group Shah Han played with in the past probably no longer invites him for future runs. After saving Shah Han from certain extinction at the hands of a strike boss, he finally gives me a ship so I can finally leave the Cosmodrome and step foot into 𝗵𝗶𝗱. Before doing this though, since this would be the last time I'm ever in the Cosmodrome patrol space, I decide to run around the map and collect all the regional gold chests that are scattered around the play space. I'm pretty sure these only give blue weapons, but you can never be too safe when you're about to solo flawless a dungeon with next to no gear. After spending the next 20 minutes doing this and getting really nothing that I'll end up using, I go to the tower because the game is forcing me to do a social space tutorial before I'm able to play the dungeon. Here I load into the tower, talk to my favorite Destiny waifu, talk to my second favorite Destiny waifu who then gives me a dogshit sidearm, then I make my way to Ikora, which is where the build crafting begins for how we're going to take down 𝗵𝗶𝗱. Here I buy the Echo of Obscurity fragment for the recovery boost, as well as the invisibility after a finisher, which is easily the strongest fragment that Void 3.0 has to offer, as well as Echo of Leeching purely for the boost to my resilience. I then talk to the Drifter, then Lord Shaxx, and finally make my way to 𝗵𝗡, who gives me what is easily the strongest weapon in my kit, the Harsh Language Breachlight GL. This grenade launcher comes with blinding nades so I can crowd control in tough situations, as well as field prep which will give me lightning fast reloads when crouched, and additional reserves which will come in handy. I then claim some seasonal stuff and finish off the tutorial by talking with Zavala once more. It was at this point that I tried to load into 𝗵𝗶𝗱, but there is one last starter quest that needs to be completed. Yippee. Load into the Disgraced with 2 other blueberries and kill 𝗍𝗏. I was gearing up for the battle of my life alongside my comrades. I didn't know which one of us would make it in and out alive, but all I knew was that, and she's dead. After this, I'm instantly loaded back into the tower and told to buy Witch Queen, and now I can officially load into the 𝗵𝗶𝗱 dungeon. This is the last time I'll step foot into the tower, so I gotta make it count. I talked to the rest of the vendors the game wanted me to for the last time, just in case I got some useful loot, which Raul gave me a Lunalana, but I'm definitely not using that over Night Watch, so I essentially am getting legendary shards and glimmer at this point. Funny enough though, that will actually come in handy. I talked with Ikora one last time and decided to pick up the Child of the Old Gods aspect, which will allow me to damage adds in an AoE, and even weaken beefier targets, which will help me during boss phases. Because of this purchase, I was also able to slot the Echo of Reprisal fragment, which won't come too much in handy, but it's better to have it than to not. After this, I was looking into a way that I could get some higher resilience armor by talking with Ada1, so I bought the chest piece that she was selling, fitted out all of my armor with mods, and there was only one last thing on my agenda before we left. I dismantled some excess gear I had, bought some Dust-like shards to convert them into glimmer at Raul, and finally bought the minor spec mod from 𝗵𝗡 for my Night Watch so that I can deal 7.5% more damage to red bars moving forward. Then, and only then, was it time to load into 𝗵𝗶𝗱 and take down this dungeon in pure solo flawless fashion once and for all. So I haven't actually ran 𝗵𝗶𝗱 in the past month according to my dungeon report, so this is going to be a little bit interesting. Slow and steady will win the race as I take my time carefully clearing the room of taken thrall before moving on to the knights. Thanks to the GL the gunsmith gave me, I can actually afford to play things fairly aggressive in certain situations. My current build is not only very reliant on blinding nades, but also being able to lifesteal at any time with a kill thanks to Devour. I take the knights out no problem and move to the second room where I then do the same. Using blinding nades, invis finishers, and my abilities to my advantage, I clear this room no problem and can finally make my way to arguably the hardest encounter in the dungeon, Phalanx Echo. This encounter is very much balls to the wall action 100% of the time, but I wasn't too worried. I was just going to jump onto this platform, get all my ammo back with a rally flag, and then I realized I'm on a new account and I don't have any rally flags. This means we're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, Shattered Throne style. I begin the fight and make sure to take things slow so I can get a feel for the arena. After my life flashes before my eyes after almost getting booped off the ledge by the boss here, I then clean up the first 2 knights for dark motes and make my way to the top of the arena where I get a double pop so I only have to worry about light motes moving forward. After every pop, a new ad wave spawns in, so I take my time clearing them out before killing my next 2 knights, going invisible with a finisher, and double popping the light motes. It was here that I finally made it to my first damage phase, and looking over this gameplay in hindsight, I feel like an idiot. I'm throwing my nade and super right off the rip at the start of every phase, not even realizing that I can use my Child of the Old Gods to weaken the boss first and get more damage in return. This damage phase goes about how you'd expect. I haven't run this dungeon in absolute ages, and this is my first time doing a solo flawless attempt like this in years, with really crummy gear to boot. I get Phalanx Echo down to just around 75% health, and start the process of getting to damage all over again. I do another clutch double pop for the dark motes before being flung off the map by the boss. Thankfully, I keep my cool and reserve my glide just enough to land on a far off rock and get teleported back into the boss room. After this, I make progress on my remaining motes needed to start next damage phase, and after popping my last, I'm a little smarter this time around, or so I thought as I waited to pop my weakening aspect only after the Nova Bomb had landed. Literally watching this gameplay makes me cringe, but to be fair, I've never used this aspect before in my life, so don't flame me too bad in the comments. Anyways, damage is over, and we're looking at less than 50% health before I get a little too cocky and end up taking one too many Boomer Knight shots into my asshole before I die. Well, shit. Back in the trenches of first encounter, I just repeat mechanics until success, climb my way back to Phalanx Echo, realize that Kel Echo has decided to stick around to watch the battle ensue, and then I put my big boy panties on and begin to absolutely clap cheeks. After 3 damage phases, Phalanx Echo has finally fallen, and the Prophecy Dungeon decided to award my efforts with a Warlock Bond. I wasn't really planning on using any of the loot from the dungeon anyways, but seriously, not even a judgment or long walk for all that bullshit. Anyways, onto the Wasteland. The Wasteland can be a tricky place because while you do have some long sight lines in order to pick off enemies from afar, never get too comfortable as invisible minotaurs roam the waste to ensure this encounter is never too easy. I didn't really realize it until just now, but is anyone else getting sandbox vibes from Halo 3 off of this place? Just a barren sand wasteland with sentient life present to keep you within the confines of your eternal prison? No? Just me? Okay, well, anyways, I go from place to place, killing the enemies as they appear, again, taking things super slow, picking off these sniper goblins before they have the chance to do the same to me, and sitting on top of each blight and meleeing it to death since they deal no damage from up here. Rinse and repeat enough times, and voila, the way is open. Okay, so, the Hexahedron encounter. Back when I first started Destiny and was wanting to solo flawless this dungeon on my main account, this was actually the encounter that gave me the most issue, mostly due to not keeping the sniper goblins up top under control. To combat this, I made sure to save up as much ammo as possible for my linear before entering this Rubik's Cube hell, so I have an easy way to one-shot them before they pose a threat to me. Just like all the other encounters leading into this one, slow and steady is the name of the game, as I methodically take my time as any kind of death would be a huge blow to the momentum that I've been gaining thus far. I even go as far as to kill all the adds in the room before using the middle elevator, as to not even give them a chance to cause any damage. Eventually, I adopt a strategy of purposely leaving adds alive with just a sliver of health, so I can finish them when the time is right to either collect emotes or to make my way out of a room unscathed. You can never be too careful when playing reserved in these solo flawless runs, and time again it's being proven that taking the invisibility fragment was one of the best choices I could have made. My RNG in this encounter was 100% in my favor, as not once did 𝗏𝗏 land on the roof of the cube, making me waste my time on any given side. Because of this, I quickly found my way to the final 2 mini-bosses for the encounter, and knowing I need as much heavy ammo as possible for Kel Echo, I opted to let my abilities do the majority of the damage alongside my primary. Eventually, the second Centurion Echo fell to my hands, and Bungie awarded me with one of my most hated weapons in the game, a swift verdict. This new light RNG sure is something so far, huh? Making my way back across the Wasteland with a new shitty sidearm in my pocket, I go through the LSD trip of a lifetime and find myself on the other side looking at one of the most beautiful sightlines in Destiny history, the 𝗕● Dungeon's Ribbon Road. Anyways, y'all are absolutely out of your minds if you think I'm using my bum-ass Sparrow for this part. I'll happily do super slow platforming and enemy shooting if that means I get to continue living. Nothing all that important happens during this part of the run, although I will say that once I got to this area right here, I genuinely had no idea that the balcony that these enemies sit on actually led somewhere. Genuinely was blown away that there was a set of stairs back here that led me to more platforms. Anyways, a hop, skip, and a jump pass by until I make it to the end of Ribbon Road. I met with some really buggy enemies that genuinely had me sweating for a minute there because I didn't want them to teleport onto me and architect the run. All is good though as I walk past a giant group of thrall and make my way to the Kel Echo boss room. 45 minutes into the run and we finally made it. My strategy on saving ammo worked perfectly as I have a full 17 linear shots as well as tons of blinding nades to pair with it. The beginning of this room gets out of hand very quickly as I'm not entirely dialed in since Ribbon Road was such a long and relaxing downtime. I quickly get things back under control and get enough motes to pop on one of the 3 corners, instantly blinding the ogre and setting up shop on this side of the room. When solo flawlessing Prophecy and making it to this encounter, the first thing you want to do is clear a side of the room as quickly as possible, as that's going to give you an area to sort of set up camp in, and you'll only need to defend from one side as a result. From here, I get both of the next 2 knights down to low health for back-to-back finishers before I pop in the back left of the room, eliminating the ogre, making the room that much easier. I of course proceed to rinse and repeat myself until the final ogre is dead, kill a few adds for potential ammo later on, and then I make my way down the sinkhole. Now again, this is my first time ever attempting this fight solo flawless in years, so I'm already making some really cringe mistakes, like throwing my grenade in super early before using Child of the Old Gods. Regardless, after the initial bit of damage on the boss, I then use a goblin to go invisible and try to get a better lay of the land. These hobgoblin snipers must be my #1 priority every single time, or they will lead me to an unfortunate wipe. Speaking of which, the final 2 in the room put me in a panic as they almost caused just that, but I stay composed and got past it. The boss will be the least of my worries throughout every single damage phase, and nearing the end of this one, I just pump some excess GL shots into Kel Echo before she disappears. I near instantly jump into the quicksand to be teleported to the next room, as I feel that waiting for all of my abilities and super would be kind of cheesy, so on to the next room we go, and oh boy, this one's tough. I absolutely hate this room. I could not have gotten more unlucky with the motes I need as well, because in order to get light motes here, I need to stand on the top middle structure when killing the knights, putting me in the line of sight of nearly every enemy in the room. This almost ends the run immediately, as I'm only barely able to out-heal the damage of those shooting at me with my rift, and then I buckle down to the bottom of the room, where my Void Soul gets a kill, instantly healing me back to full. From here, I take another crack at it by killing a knight and getting just enough motes to get my first pop, making the pressure of this room ease up tenfold. After this room was nothing but child's play, but unfortunately for me, by the end of it, I had next to no ammo to show for my efforts, which would mean this next damage phase wasn't going to do much for me. Going through the quicksand, I meet face to face with Kel Echo yet again, wasting damage with my Void Soul like an absolute idiot, but lucky for me, I was given ammo by a hobgoblin to potentially make up for those losses. I then focus my efforts on the ads in this room before dealing another point of damage to Kel Echo, then I turn around and use up the rest of my reserves. Once I'm out of linear, I go right back to the only other thing I can do, which is deal blinding nade damage, which is definitely starting to be painful because that blinding nade damage nerf a while back. I end this phase at Kel Echo being just above half health, and I'm just praying for more ammo at this point. Back into the quicksand I go, and that leads me to a fairly relaxed room for this boss fight. Plenty of columns for me to use as cover against the clones of Kel Echo, and during the times of me not being covered from the ads, my blinding nades get the job done enough to keep me out of danger. Like clockwork, I get some light motes, come close to the face of death but not too close, and wipe out another ogre from existence once again. Repeating this process 2 more times will net me with a total of 11 linear ammo by the end of it, so I'm ready once more for Kel Echo. Yet again, throwing my super and nade early like an idiot, I begin to lay into Kel Echo as another round of deja vu kicks in. Rinse and repeat is the name of the game, and with every repeat, the chances of even the smallest slip up happening increases. Fret not though, I end off yet another damage phase with honestly not much to show for it. I did okay damage, but not nearly enough to close things out by next phase. Kel Echo disappears into the night as my hopes and dreams of only needing one more phase do as well. Back into the quicksand I go to be met with this absolute monstrosity of a room. Invisibility and blinding are my biggest allies here as cover is almost non-existent. Staying aggressive with proccing Devour is always a surefire way to guarantee I stay alive during those moments of being seen. 1 ogre, 2 ogre, 3, and by the end of it, next to no ammo for me. Yeah, this is tough. The good news, however, is I finally realized I was being a dumbass, and I opted to pop my Void Soul at the beginning of this damage phase before exhausting all of my highest damage options. Truth be told, had I been given better heavy ammo RNG, this probably would have been the one. I was absolutely cooking Kel Echo like Gordon Ramsay in a chef-off, but my lack of linear ammo would bite me in the ass, and I would need to settle for one last phase. Through the quicksand, and wouldn't you know, the starter room with like 5 heavy ammo bricks laying around that I made last time. Really could have used these before last phase, but I gotta stay focused. Here, I was getting fairly sick of this boss encounter and played extremely aggressive. I was even using my heavy ammo on enemies in this room because I just had that much laying around. That and Kel Echo could die from a ladybug fart at this point, so why not use the ammo if it's just laying there? After some time, all 3 ogres slain, with 𝗔𝗓𝗔𝗍 entering the quicksand one last time to put an end to Kel Echo. Can you solo flawless the Prophecy dungeon as a new light player right out of the gates? Yes you can. Using nothing but the resources the game gave me, such as Glimmer to buy aspects and fragments, my Night Watch from 𝗁𝗏, my Harsh Language from 𝗵𝗔𝗍, and my King Cobra from that fallen captain in the Cosmodrome, I come out victorious over Kel Echo and her goons, to claim some of the snazziest cosmetics that Destiny has to offer. All of this no less as a 100% new light player. Thank you all so much for watching up into this point, and if you enjoyed today's content, please leave a like rating below and comment what kind of challenge you would like to see next. Massive thank you to those that support the content via Patreon as well as YouTube memberships, and shout out to all my tier 2s and above, being Onrock, Admus, Vile, John, Noel, Homebase Serenity, Boomer Noob, and Don Shiegel. We also have Austin, Cinco, and Galumia, as well as Peak614, Hank the Tank, Ben McClellan, Brian, Angel, Mayhem Gaming, Clear 𝘵𝗍𝗂, as well as Austin and Serenity once more. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.